at 3,000. But coming up now, and I already have two people here, so might as well bring them in now. First, we have Rob Silver. Rob is one of the co-hosts of the Launch Angle podcast and has many impressive accolades, including an NFBC main event championship belt. Arguably his most impressive accomplishment, though, is that there is a parody account dedicated entirely to him on Twitter. You can find him on Twitter at Rob Silver. Rob, thanks so much for joining today.
It's awesome being here. Honestly, winning the 2016 NFBC championship was better than having a parody account, if I'm just going to be honest with you guys.
Oh, I totally understand that. So also coming in here is Grey Albright. Grey has been a mainstay in the fantasy community for over a decade. The co-founder of Razzball. Grey's resume is boundless. He's the only person in the entire fantasy community to win both Tout Wars and be called a little minor league by Matthew Berry. You can find him on Twitter at Razzball. Thanks a lot for joining me, Grey.
Yo, what's going on? I'm trying to figure out which. I have a couple monitors. I'm trying to figure out which monitor to look at. I think I'm looking at the wrong one now.
You are. Yeah.
Am I looking at you now, or am I looking at myself? Because
the
camera is on this one, but I'm looking at this one.
You seem like a very stable genius.
Yeah, where did you get that idea?
All right, we got more people coming in now. We have Matt Modica, fantastic high-stakes fantasy baseball player. Matt is also the staff writer over at The Athletic, and if his Twitter is any indication, a wonderful chef. Check him out over on Twitter at CTM Baseball. He's already given a very generous donation to the cause. Matt, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. And, I'm not a very stable genius, so we'll start there. We'll start there, but, hoping for baseball and fingers crossed and all good things in the future.
Awesome. And lastly, our moderator for this is Paul Sporer. Paul is the co-host of the award-winning Sleeper in the Bus podcast, as well as the weekly Fireside Chat podcast. He's a frequent contributor to Fangraphs and Rotographs, and his work has also been featured on ESPN. Sporer is currently a Twitch partner as well, so definitely go give him a follow, especially for your MLB The Show needs. You can find him on Twitter at Sporer and on Twitch at twitch.tv/Sporer. Sporer, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very, very excited. So far, it's already been great, and I can't wait. Honestly, I'm looking forward to this, but I'm really looking forward to waxing you in MLB The Show.
Oh my God, it's gonna be absolutely terrible. I haven't even played for like a month, so it's gonna be. I have nothing to lose though. So if I hit a home run,
I haven't played that much lately either. As somebody who plays regularly, it has been a while. So I shouldn't even say that because it doesn't mean anything. You're still gonna get killed, but just to make you feel like a tiny bit better about it.
Oh, that feels great. All right, so this is the Player Debates 2020 panel. I'm going to duck out now. I'm really looking forward to this one. And really, thanks again, guys, for being a part of PitchCon.
Well, thank you for having us. All right, so we've got our three esteemed guests here.
How did you get to be the moderator?
I think it was thrust upon me. I think it was thrust upon me by Nick.
I feel like there should have been some sort of election on that. I don't know how you just got to decide.
Is this an esteemed position? Moderator? I don't know if it is. I kind of like giving my thoughts. I feel like I'm missing out by not being able to really dig in with my thoughts.
It's good to Rob, Matt, Paul. It's good to see you guys.
Good to see you here as well.
So, but can I just say, you waxing him in MLB The Show sounds awfully dirty to me, Paul. I don't know. I haven't played a lot of video games in the last 20 years, but waxing him sounds kind of kinky.
I was turned on by that, to be totally honest.
Saturday night, come through. Twitch. I mean,
What exactly? Is it like a Brazilian? What is going on there?
That's the thing. You don't know until it's done. We kind of take it as we go. So we'll see how it goes. But we have 6 player battles here that we're going to discuss. I'm going to start by opening it up to one of y'all as kind of the leader of that one, and then get the thoughts of the other 2, particularly if there are disagreements. We got some high-end ones, some mid-tier ones, and then one that a little bit later there. I had some that were really deep, but I didn't find those to be as robust for discussion. So let's just start at the very top here with pitching really changing, despite the fact that we haven't had any baseball. Things are changing a bit because guys are getting healthier. I think the pool is actually getting a little bit stronger. But 2 guys that were drumming up a lot of excitement, regardless of which way things were going, were Blake Snell and Luis Castillo. Blake Snell Now, this is just looking at NFBC RotoWire online championship drafts since April 1st, which entails 61 drafts. So I figured that was a decent sample set. That's a 12-team mixed league standard, has waivers as well, unlike the draft champions, which I think are a little bit different. So Snell was going 44th on average, Castillo 39th. Matt, I'm going to start with you on this one. Who are you picking between Blake Snell and Luis Castillo? And I imagine you'll hit on it, but does the likelihood of a universal DH change this one versus how you might have looked at it back in February, March?
Well, early on, it was going to be Blake Snell. I think my original rankings, I had him like 6 or 7. And I really like Luis Castillo. But once we had like injury concerns and stuff, I just had to back off. Because, last year, those first 2 months pretty much replicated the last 2 months of 18, and then it all went south. And as far as Castillo goes, I still think, I've thought the world of this kid for a while now. Rob could attest to that. He's beaten me up on that in the past. But if you look at this kid, he keeps improving. The walk rate in the second half, I think between April to June, he walked like 52 batters. And from July through September, it was like 27 or something like that. And he pitches really well in his home park. I know we all call it the Great American Small Park and all that. Mm-hmm. But he's a guy that, I'm very high on. I don't have many shares because there's other guys I like ahead of him. But it would have been Blake Snell easily. But now I'm just going to go Castillo because I just don't want to deal with anything.
Okay, so Castillo for Matt. Gray, I'll throw it to you. Are you with Castillo as well? How do you see these two playing out between Snell and Castillo?
Yeah, honestly, I don't even think it's that close, especially after the elbow injury to Snell. I think if nothing else, you take away from this little chat about Snell and Castillo, that if a pitcher has an arm injury, there's just no reason to draft them. It's just like avoid if you can. There's like literally, absolutely, adjectively, no reason to draft a guy who is coming into a season with an elbow injury. Last year, he had the loose bodies in his elbow. Even if he had those removed, in January, he was going about 12 spots before Castillo, and I even thought that was crazy at the time. So assume about a round before. I thought it was nuts. Castillo is great on his own, even if you're not comparing him to Snell, who had the arm injury. I think Castillo is he's got top 5% swinging strike percentage. He is just he basically can't hitters cannot touch him. They can't make contact on him. He had a 66% percentage of making contact. I think DeGrom is around 70. There's no Castillo is unmatched with how little contact hitters make on him. If hitters aren't making contact, then it's a really easy decision here. And as good as Snell is, and I do think Snell is good if he's healthy, arm injury alone is just there's no way I'm touching that. So, yeah, it isn't easy for me.
Yeah, I think that's an understandable tiebreaker, particularly because it is fresh with Snell. He looks to be healthy, ready to go to start the season, but there's no better predictor of future injury than a previous one, particularly one so recently. Rob, let's close it up with you here. We have 2 for Castillo, none for Snell. Are you going to be the lone Snell guy? And again, I know you were recently on the RotoWire podcast discussing this DH thing. Does that play a role in this? Because again, we're all assuming universal DH going into this half season, whatever.
Well, of course it plays a role into it. 7% of his plate appearances that he's basically had against people who are punters, who cannot by definition hit, are not going to be against punters anymore. So to say it has no impact on the National League pitchers is ignorant. Of course it has a difference. I'll play devil's advocate. The reality is, in real life, I like other pitchers more at this spot than either of them. So I don't know that either of them are ADP, the guy I'm going to take. But I'll make the case for Blake Snell just to keep it interesting. By the time, in this hypothetical world where we're drafting the last week of June, first week of July for games that are starting July 1st, forth the Modica plan of how the world's going to unfold. Either we've seen Blake Snell on a mound again, and he's pitching 70, 80 pitches in his last spring training 2 start, or we haven't. If I assume that by the time I'm drafting the last week of June, Blake Snell has been on a mound, his velocity, if we have velocity readings, is relatively close to what we expect from Blake Snell, and his pitch count is relatively high. What's the case for Blake Snell? He's had an elite season. Luis Castillo has not had a truly elite season. In a sprint season, I know what a Blake Snell masterpiece can look like. And despite the hiccups of last season, and obviously if you drafted Blake Snell last year, you didn't get what you were paying for, the skills are still there. The skills and the pitch mix is still elite, which it, of course, is with Luis Castillo as well. Luis Castillo's changeup is one of the 5 best pitches in baseball. I assume you'd agree with that, Paul. So it's not an anti-Castillo argument, but in terms of ballpark, in terms of league, in terms of upside, if he's healthy, and I just care about winning in 3 months, Blake Snell has the potential to carry my entire rotation, which Luis Castillo could. Like, we can all squint and see that with Luis Castillo, but he's never done that before. So that's the case for Blake Snell, and I think if he's healthy, it's a perfectly defendable case.
Yeah, I think it really is close there. I understand what Gray's saying about the injury, but I do think it's closer if we are on that assumption that we are getting a healthier iteration of Snell, which we'll know more about as we're going into the second round of draft.
It doesn't make any sense to try and hope for healthy. Like, if we don't
have to hope for it.
If a guy is healthy and another guy could be healthy, there's already a question mark on could be healthy. So you
great
question on health.
Gray, we need 15. We're getting 15 starts from the healthiest guy there is. Like the paragon, the Nolan Ryan of health this year is getting you 15 starts. So, like, health risk has to be recalibrated to some extent here. That doesn't mean you take you don't draft a Justin Mason roster of 23 hurt guys. Like, you don't want to do that. But I think in terms of the sliding scale of risk, I hear what you're saying. Like, in a normal, we're drafting in February, March, but I think the equation's a little bit different. We need more upside, I think, this year, especially in NFBC type leagues. Home leagues, safety in the first round, the first pitcher is a little bit different.
No, I get you. And the ADP says they are going back to back. So I'm saying, essentially, if there's a question mark, why even bother? And I actually agree. And I agree with with Matt, I believe, who said, am I even, or maybe it was Rob. Rob actually, I think, said it. Am I drafting either of them? I don't even know if I'm drafting either of them. But if I were to draft one. Yeah.
Can I say one last thing here?
Go ahead,
If
Matt.
I had the choice, I would throw Lucas Giolito ahead of both of them. So how about that?
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm with Matt for sure. Yeah.
How about you,
Gary
Sporer?
Cole before him too, if we're just throwing out.
Who's that, Gray? Who else did you say?
I'd say Gary Cole before him too. We're just throwing out.
Yeah.
I mean, picture guys in his range, though.
Interesting thing about Giolito, he's actually going later. Giolito has a 49 ADP, so he's actually a little bit, going after these two guys, which I understand moving him up there. I got no problems with that. I think between these two, I am leaning Snell because I do think that we are getting a healthier guy than Gray does. I understand the general concern, but until we see something that says the elbow's flaring up again and he's being shut down in spring training too, I'm going to go Snell. I like the call out of Giolito though, but we do have to move on to the next one. So we're a little bit
just a monitor. Wait, what's going on? You're choosing?
Rob asked. Next up, we're going to start with Rob on this one. Jonathan VR at pick 39 against Kesten Hira at pick 41. Two middle infielders here. I believe VR has double eligibility here as second base only. Hira, some interesting speed there that I don't think is always as highlighted in his profile. Had an interesting season last year where the plate skills weren't as good, but the results were so strong in a short sample. And VR had a big season. Now he's going to go be in Miami, full-timer out there. Rob, we'll start with you. VR versus Kesten Hira.
Unlike the first one, which was a tough call for me, this is quite easy. I think Hira is a star in the making, and I think VR is one of the most overrated players in drafts this year, which is tough to say because VR is coming off, obviously, a spectacular fantasy season, but I think it's headed in one direction for a whole bunch of reasons. Whereas Hira, I think we saw him in Arizona a couple of years ago, and we saw what the hit skills are. And I actually think, well, some of the numbers at the majors last year are fluky and will regress, will come down a little bit. I also think he can improve. You mentioned the speed. I actually think that he can play up. I love the lineup. I love everything about him. And I think that it is not hard to squint a little bit and imagine us next year at this time. Well, God forbid we're drafting it next year at this time. Next year, hopefully in February, taking him in the first round, if not second round. So I think that he's a guy where there's a lot of players like him in the third round, right? Like you love Ozzy Albies, you love a lot of those types of players, and I think he fully belongs in that kind of run of players with Marte, with a whole bunch of those guys. So I love Hira, whereas I'm fading VR quite hard this year.
Let's jump over to Matt. Now, Matt, I don't know if you're going for Hira, but I'm going to pose this to you anyway. The 31% strikeout rate against a 7% walk rate. He's not going to be a huge walk guy in any capacity, but he had struck out 26% of the time in the AAA too. This was new for Hira. He was not a big strikeout guy. Does that plate profile worry you at all, or do you think it gets more into the low to mid 20s with his strikeout rate, which is where he actually lived actually high teens, low 20s is where Hira was in the minors. But if you bump that up a little bit for the majors, the projected probably would have been in the 22 to 24% range, but he was up at 31%. Are you worried about the strikeouts with Hira? And then, of course, give us your pick between these two.
No, I'm actually not worried about the strikeouts because, as you stated previously, in the minors, it was much lower. As he went to AAA that year, he kind of sold out for power. I remember when we were in Arizona, he wasn't known for this power, and it all just came. So I think there's a hybrid of this player. So why I'd be more willing to invest in him too is maybe it's around 25%. Say he'll chip in with the speed. I love that ballpark. Maybe there's a couple of other middle infielders I like better than him at that range, but I would take him over Jonathan Villar. The one thing I will say about Villar, and I'll throw a fantasy football reference in here, sorry about that, it's about volume. VR gets the at-bats and plays in those games, he's going to hit double-digit homers, and he's going to steal about 30 bases. So it's Hira for me, but I don't hate Villar. I don't really have many shares of Villar. But if it's in the fourth round and you have no speed and you want to get it, I can kind of see it.
Okay. So 2 for Hira, nobody for VR yet. Grey, are you going to sweep it here with Kesten here? And what are your thoughts on this pair here? Because they're both kind of interesting for what they can offer.
Yeah, I mean, I think VR gets a bit of a bad rap because he's not if you look at his stats over his career, he's a guy who has had, I believe, 2 top 15 hitter seasons. Last year, he had 24 homers, 40 steals. And then in 2016, he had 19 homers and 62 steals. He's never hit for a terrible average. He's a guy who has power, speed. He won't kill you in average. It's I kind of want Kesten too because I get it. I mean, Kesten feels like a guy who is, if you're on a scale where one guy is going up and another guy is going down, you feel like Kesten Herrera he's going up. So you want the guy who's going up. Obviously, you want everyone on your team who is getting better versus getting worse. But I mean, VR is really he gets this rap about he doesn't walk, his on base percentage sucks. Most people are playing in 5x5 leagues, so who cares? If it's not affecting, it's not going to affect his lineup placement. Marlon's got no one else. And at this point, there was concern that in June or July, which is obviously not happening, but there was concern that there was going to be a trading deadline issue with Villar and he was going to get traded to someone. So unless we start this season now and we play through to next January, there's not going to be a trading deadline anymore. So I don't know. I mean, Villar honestly could get into like a small sample size great season, whereas Hira, I could see the opposite happen. And last year he had a 400 plus BABIP to hit 300. I mean, he is a good hard contact guy, so I'm not going to necessarily knock him for being like a bad average guy, but his average and Villar's average may not be that dramatically different. And Hira is going to give you, some power and a lot less speed. I mean, it probably, Hira will give you maybe, I want to say, maybe a 30% more power than Villar, but the steals are going to be off the charts for Villar. I mean, it's going to be like, he could lead the league in steals in a half season.
He could steal 35 and a half season if things go crazy there.
I'll be devil's advocate, even though in reality I probably wouldn't be drafted by Villar, but I'll be devil's advocate here and I'll say him.
The one thing that does hurt Villar is there's no Noah Syndergaard, who he probably would have stole like 20 bases off from 20 seasons.
That is true. He could have really enjoyed that. But
I don't really know you, but you're making good points.
Wilson Ramos is still going to be there, not throwing guys out. So the extra Syndergaard with Ramos is really nice. It's tough to lose that, but there will still be Ramos there for Villar. I tend to think Villar is getting a little bit of a bad rap too. I agree with Gray on some of that. Whereas Hira is kind of the shiny new toy, and so people are automatically saying him. I lean closer to Villar here. Now, nobody did ask this one. Last time Rob asked, now I'm just giving my opinion. I lean closer to Villar there. So
it's anarchy.
I make this one a 2-2.
So I'll make one more anti-Villar argument quickly. Is if I draft Villar, I'm counting on him for a big chunk of my stolen bases, it's similar to a Trey Turner challenge. It's certainly a challenge if you draft the Alex Smith. Now, he's obviously contributing in other categories.
Wait. Those two are good players. Alex Smith is garbage.
No. My point just is, there's no doubt that's true. I hate from a roster construction perspective being dependent on one guy for 30-40% of my stolen bases. Because as we've seen with Villar in the year that he broke everybody's heart, that's part of what this is. He was coming off of an awesome year. People invested huge draft capital in him, and he destroyed people. And we all tell ourselves we're too smart to hold that against guys, but we do. But the challenge from a roster construction perspective is when you're
the Brewers are terrible, and they start platooning him. That's not going to happen.
No, Gray. He was awful.
He got mad at his defense too. His defense became untenable.
He started platooning him. It wasn't just a straight.
Anyways, I don't like roster constructions when I have Villar coming out that early in my team.
I understand that. I'm anti-Rabbit generally. The one thing I do like about him is that he does offer something else with power. I think his run count, he scored 111 on the Orioles. I think this Marlins offense is sneaky decent. I don't want to overrate it, but they're not as awful as they were last year. So I think Villar could still score runs. But I think we're kind of set on Villar versus Hira. Let's move on to our next grouping here. Another pitcher one. We've got Corey Kluber. Now, given what Gray said on the first one, I feel like I have an idea. Actually, no, both guys are injured, so this will be really interesting. Corey Kluber at pick 103 against James Paxton at 118. You're dealing with two guys with injury here, Gray. So I do wonder when you are faced with that, obviously your answer is probably to pivot to a third guy who isn't hurt. But if it does come down to these two, you need a pitcher. These are the two best options available. Where do you go between a Corey Kluber who broke his arm last year and then had an oblique on the rehab, and Paxton who, when there's a strong wind, tweaks something?
Yeah, no, I mean, I said with Blake Snell that I don't draft pitchers with arm injuries. So it's a pretty clear-cut case of, Kluber had an arm injury where Paxton had a back injury. So this is another easy one for me. I'm straight Paxton on this because I feel like, Kluber, before he even had the broken forearm from the, unfortunate comebacker, his velocity was down. He was a bit of a mess. Like he looked
he'd been terrible.
Yeah, exactly. So it looked like he had gotten old. Now, he had never really been a early in the season pitcher, so that could have been playing into it, but it was not like he was necessarily lighting the world on fire. Then he broke his forearm. Like, he had problems, and then he went back and he came. I think he was in the minors, like September of last year, and he didn't look good in like in his rehab assignment. He was a bit of a mess even there. So, and Paxton has always been good when he's healthy. So it feels like another easy one for me. I mean, I'm at least Paxton all the way.
Plus, Paxton, had an injury concern coming in. This time off has certainly helped a guy like that. He's ready and raring to go. Rob, where do you come out here? And an additional question with regards to Kluber specifically. Are you surprised that maybe he's not a little bit cheaper based on kind of the washout last year? I thought maybe washout season, going to Texas, which has a general perception of scariness, even though we don't know how the new park's going to play. It's likely to be more neutral. I thought he might be a little bit cheaper than 103 coming in, but that's actually, relatively high price for him. But where do you land on these two, and what do you think of Kluber's price based on last year's fallout?
I actually love both of them where they're going right now. I love Big Maple. I love James Paxton. I just can't quit him. He's one of those guys from an Arsenal perspective. He has, when he's on, top 5 stuff in baseball. I think his repertoire, how his pitches play together. We've been saying this for a long time, but the perfect James Paxton season is a thing of beauty. We haven't seen it yet. We may never see it. But I like Paxton a ton. But Kluber is the much more difficult guy to evaluate right now. He's a bit of a wild card. There's no doubt that he's a bit of a wild card. So what are the arguments for him? First off, there is some recency bias with him. As bad as last year was, a year ago in drafts, so 2019 NFBC main event, he was a solid second round pick. Now, there were lots of warning signs. There were lots of flags that lots of us were talking about in terms of Corey Kluber as the guy who has been a perennial top 4, top 5 pitcher for a long time. There were reasons to be off of Corey Kluber. And if you were off of Corey Kluber last year, you proved to be quite smart because it worked out for you. But we go off guys so quickly, and there are all kinds of reasons to think that a healthy Corey Kluber can rebound. I do think the ballpark is much better. I do like what Texas is as an organization did with Lance Lynn, with Mike Minor last year. I think that they can. It's not that Cleveland's a dumb organization. Obviously, he's had a lot of success with Cleveland's approach to pitching. But I think there's a whole bunch of reasons that a Corey Kluber rebound is eminently plausible. All that being said, if I had to take one of them at the same price, I'd take James Paxton all day, every day.
And not only that, but you are getting about a round discount on Paxton. Now, I would be eager to see how things will change in the second round of drafts with a known Paxton being healthy. I think those two might flip in their pick ranking, but they're still going to be pretty close. I'm with you on Kluber. I guess I was just hoping for a bigger discount. Matt, where do you come out on these two here? We've got 2 votes for Paxton, none for Kluber. Do you sweep it?
Yeah, we are going to sweep it. I mean, last year I might have had Kluber. He was definitely top 15, maybe top 12, but I did right. I wasn't drafting him, but he had that. You had to put him up there. He's just been too good. I didn't think he was going to get injured like that. He's been kind of been a workhorse. I don't like betting against Kluber here, as Rob was saying. I do like the landing spot in Texas. As you indicated, probably a lot more neutral. Having the dome should really help that pitching staff. But I look at Paxton, and I'm always going to buy him, especially at a discount. And last year was his first year in the Bronx. He hurt the knee. I think he came back too soon. He had a 10-start stretch where he was the James Paxton that we all dream of and all want to see. So with the time off, he should be fully healthy. It's going to be Big Maple for me.
All right, so we got a Paxton sweep there with some love for Kluber, but just between those two, everyone's going with Paxton. He is insane when he pitches. Gray hit on that point early. When healthy, he doesn't fail. And we saw a healthy Kluber fail last year, at least for a limited sample. All right, let's go a little bit deeper here and talk about 2 up and comers, two shiny new toys that everyone's trying to go after here in Julio Urias at pick 124 and Zach Gallen at 122. Gallen was anointed the guy of the Arizona Fall League. He turned every corner. Somebody was talking about him in some capacity. He was definitely a big favorite across the conference. Gray, I'll start with you on this one as well here between Urias and Gallen. Between the two young bucks, who do you lean on?
Well, I think it should be said that if we have a 100 game or 82 game season, that, early on I was saying if there's a 100 game season, I was saying Urias in 120 innings, is it that different than Cole in 120 innings? They're different. Garrett Cole, that is. They're better. I mean, Garrett Cole's still better, but are they dramatically as different? So I was saying that early, but now I've sort of backpedaled a little bit on that because at where the season is now, and if there's an 82 game or even if there is a 100 game season, if you have Urias, probably with the Dodgers staff, you have Gonsling, Stripling, Dustin May. You have so many guys in that rotation that I could see Urias piggybacking in starts, maybe starting every fifth game, but only going 4 innings, or maybe going every third game and going 3 innings. It's so hard to say exactly how they're going to use Urias. I think it's probably a good idea to fade him a little bit just because of the depth of the Dodgers staff, whereas Galen is just great. I mean, we all know he's great. I love Galen. I love Urias too. I love them both. This one is really tough for me because I am a big fan of Urias and Galen, but I just think Galen's just safer. Last year he had just his pitching was just so incredible in the second half, and I feel like that was just a sign of things to come. That it's, for me, I have to go Galen probably by a good 2 or 3 rounds even. I think I have to go Galen up higher than he's going and maybe fade Urias just a tad.
Yeah, Nick calls that Dodgeritis there, having to deal with Dodger starters that aren't Buehler and Kershaw because they have so many of these guys that they can kind of fit in. Who knows how it's going to be in a season like this if they are playing scheduled doubleheaders and piggybacking and tandem starting. Matt, let's go to you on this one. Zach Gallen, Julio Urias, really tight. I think both have their proponents that really push them up. You heard Gray even say that he would push Gallen even above the 122 ADP. Where do you come out with these two? And are you drafting them specifically? I know some of you guys have said you wouldn't even draft either of these duo. Do you like one of these two more than the other that you're putting on your teams?
I like both a lot, but I'm really in on Julio Urias. I think right now, the fact that Dave Roberts came out and said he is a starting pitcher, he's in our rotation. I'm more concerned about the off-field stuff. As long as that is going to be straightened out, I think the talent's there. I love that mound. I call it a magical mound. That team is just fantastic. He has around him. I think the bullpen's even more improved this season. So I think, I was taking the discount on Julio. Everybody loves Jesus Luzardo, but I don't think they're that far away. And there's a big gap now between both of them. So for this one, as much as I like Gallen, I'm going to go with Julio.
I fully agree with everything you said there with regards to Urias, particularly in comparison to Luzardo, who costs more. Rob, we got a split here, so you're breaking the tie between Urias and Gallen. Where do you go?
I wasn't going to go Gallen, but this Galen guy sounded really impressive to me. I think all of these guys are going to break people's hearts. So I think Luzardo, Urias, Gallen, Galen, all of them. I think I've named 7 pitchers by just pronouncing them with Gray's pronunciation and a different pronunciation at this point. And it's not because I don't like the skill.
Is it Robe Silver?
Robe Salver. It's
French Robe.
Yeah, I know. I could get it in a lot of trouble, Gray, by mispronouncing and just switching one letter of your name around on this podcast or on this presentation. And it's not because I don't love the talent. Urias is easily, potentially a top 10 pitcher on a per inning basis. Luzardo easily could be a top 10 pitcher on a per inning pitcher. We know we're all smart at this point. Anybody certainly who's watching this is smart. You don't chase wins. You don't chase innings in an 82-game season because it's so unpredictable. The reality is volume is going to be such a key to pitcher value in a compressed schedule. So everybody is a lot of people are in a mindset that it doesn't matter anymore because Luzardo is going to be able to go 82 games. There's no limit. Except if he's coming out in the fourth inning of every single game, he cannot get value. When Gray and Rudy do their Razzball player evaluator, they just can't get the value. So you don't want to chase wins, but you sure as heck want to chase guys you know are going to get into the 5th and 6th and 7th and 8th, for the rare guys who can get into the 8th inning of games anymore, guys. So if it gun to my head, because I'm not going to chicken out on the actual debate we're having, I would rather Urias this year because I think he's more talented. Even though I love Gallen and Galen, I'll drop that joke. It's I've beat the gray out of it. But it really depends. If I were actually going to draft him, it depends on roster construction. Not to go back to that old hobby horse, is you need to have a couple of other starting pitchers, even if they're starting pitchers you take later than him, that you're quite comfortable are going to get you volume, even in a compressed schedule. They're going to get you wins potentially in a compressed schedule, because I just don't know what you're going to get from him. Not just because of the Dodgers, just the way baseball is going to be played this year. We don't know.
That's the thing. It's such a wild unknown. It's hard to know where to go with some of these young guys that are uncertainties in the best of times, let alone in a half season. No joke, because I didn't really know Zach Gallen coming into last year as a prospect. I'm not a huge prospect guy, and he wasn't a massive prospect. Like, I know top prospects. When he was being brought up for having like a 1.20 ERA in the minors, I went to Fangraphs and looked up Zach Allen. And I was like, I don't know who the hell this guy is. I couldn't find him anywhere. Zach Allen. I was looking for somebody named Zach Allen, and didn't exist. All right, let's go to the outfield here. Oh, go ahead. Do you have another thing, Gray?
No, I was just going to say that, I feel like there is definitely something to what Matt and Rob, they were saying. I love Urias. So I just want to be clear that I love both of these guys. I don't have as much. Maybe I throw caution to the wind a little bit with these guys on how much innings they're going to throw. I think Urias is going to struggle to throw as many innings just because the Dodgers have so many guys. But I love them both if they're there for the right price. So
yeah, I think that's something that we all shared, all four of us, is that we're big fans of the duo. We're kind of splitting hairs or using these little tiebreakers to pick whichever one we would want for our team there. So there was no anti as far as Urias and Gallen. Let's go to the outfield here and talk about a couple of speedy guys in the Central. Oscar Mercado up at 116 after a very strong rookie campaign, and Byron Buxton, the ever-teasing Buxton, at 143. Rob, you can take the lead on this one here. The speed drives both of them. Despite only having 1 year, Mercado's actually done something now, whereas Buxton's really only teased, a half season, 6 weeks at a time here. Where do you go between these two, particularly with the fact that you are going to get a discount on Buxton? Is it enough to make you go his way here?
So going into both 2018 and 2019, I was Mr. Fade Byron Buxton. And anybody who follows me on Twitter knows, like, I talk a lot of annoying Canadian politics. I've talked Middle East politics. I've talked mostly for the Canadian politics. Thanks, Paul. And I swear, I could debate abortion, Middle East peace, anything. and not get the vitriolic reaction that me saying bad things about Byron Buxton going into 2018 and 2019 got. Because people were projecting him for 30 home runs, 50 stolen bases, just ridiculous projections. And when you said, like, he just doesn't get on base enough to steal 50 bases at this point, there's no player in history. Like, Vince Coleman had a better approach than Byron Buxton had. It just doesn't make sense, the stolen bases you're projecting, no matter how fast he is. It was literally like I was saying, that's not the true God. The God you're praying to is not the God. That was the reaction I would get. And I don't say that as, look how smart I am. That's where I was on Byron Buxton. I have flipped entirely on Byron Buxton coming into this year for two reasons. One, the price has changed. But number two, Byron Buxton changed last year. And it's easy, and Paul, your introduction was the only fair Byron Buxton introduction you could do. But he was a different player last year. His plate approach was radically different. And he is never going to have a 11% strikeout rate. He is always going to be a guy with a high strikeout rate, but it was a manageable strikeout rate. The power was finally developing. All of the things that people who thought Byron Buxton was going to be the top prospect in baseball, was going to be this elite fantasy guy, were starting to emerge. And I was getting really worried during the season because I was like, I am going to look so stupid because this is a guy headed for a $30 season. Right now, it's happening for him. And then he got hurt. And like, maybe he's the injury prone guy. Maybe just the way he plays the outfield will not allow him to stay healthy. I fully accept that. But in the 10th round, the potential for that upside is the point at drafts when I like taking those kinds of risks. Which doesn't mean I don't like Mercado. Mercado is the guy who's more likely to steal in a full 162-game season, 35 to 40 bases. But the power that showed last year was never there in the minors. I think that was a lot of happy fun ball. I think he's not going to be D. Gordon. He will have like 8 to 10, maybe 12 home runs in a regular full season. But he's not a 2020 guy. And I think Byron Buxton, if healthy, is showing to be that guy. The only thing that worries me about Byron Buxton besides the health is the Twins don't need to run. He's the only guy on the team who runs. They have, I think, the best lineup in baseball. The Yankees might disagree. That's okay. We can have that debate as well. But they don't need him to run. So, and he will bat ninth the entire season, like maybe eighth if things go well. He's never going to get up to the top, whereas Mercado is at the top. But that upside is still there, and in the 10th round, I'm willing to take a little swing for that there.
I shared your transformation on Buxton too. Fade, and then did see some things last year. And I'm careful to throw out the injury prone thing. Jeff Zimmerman's done work showing that unless it's the same injury, there's a lot of luck factors that go into it. I will put it on Buxton, though, because the way he plays adds 100%. To that proneness. Let's go to Gray here and talk about this Mercado versus Buxton battle. And I will say, you're still judging off of the 143 ADP, but I do wonder if when we do the second round of drafts, if Buxton starts to trickle up. Because if I recall correctly, he was nicked in spring, right? He hadn't been playing yet, so maybe he moves up.
He was on a mad dash to get ready for opening day, but it was a very live question whether he was going to be ready for March opening day.
Yeah, that's true. So, but where do you come out here, Gray, on these two, Mercado versus Buxton?
Are you guys redrafting your teams? I don't want to do that.
Not redrafting, but for example, a lot of us play NFBC and the main events didn't go.
I don't want to redraft anything, dude.
No, I don't.
At this point. Anyway, Buxton's garbage, bro. I really don't like Buxton at all. I'm sorry. God bless everyone who's on the Buxton train. Choo choo, goodbye. I'm nowhere near it. I'm like, yeah, late. I feel like Buxton could be great. But every year he could. I mean, it's like enough already. I'm over it. I think that, like, if Buxton puts it together and he proves me wrong, then terrific. I mean, I'll pat you on the back and be like, yo, you had a great season from him. You did good. Good luck with you. I'm just not in on it until I see something like some sort of consistency. Like, he did have a better strikeout rate last year, which is good. and he had a better walk rate, which is okay, but it's still not really like where I'm going if I'm drafting an outfielder in that range. I'm easily going for Mercado here. I think Mercado is, he's got good power. I feel like there's a chance for some speed. He doesn't kill you necessarily with K's and his what was that?
A dog shaking.
Did someone just throw a rock through my window for saying bad things about Buxton? Wow.
Joe Kelly's practicing his change outside your
I don't know
window.
what Rob's talking about. The backlash comes fast here. I'm just not in on Buxton at all. So, I mean, good luck to you if you get him and he does well, but I'm just going nowhere near him. I'm Mercado all the way.
All right, so we got 1-1 here. It was not this dog who made that noise, by the way. She goes around the house. Somebody else's dog.
I choose that dog over Buxton for sure.
You choose Char over Buxton. I don't blame you. All right.
I'm amazed by Gray's ability to pronounce Mercado and Buxton properly.
Well,
what? Break our tie here, Matt.
Yeah, we're gonna break our tie. There's two things. One, Dorothy Mantooth is a saint, and the Byron Buxton prophecy will be fulfilled. Like Rob said, last year we were seeing things on a positive note. He does play reckless, but that's one of the things that's what makes him a great center fielder. Actually in the field, but I think it was at the first couple of months, and he was pretty much having a Starling Marte season at that point. Maybe not the same batting average. Marte's, I believe, might have improved, but here nor there. The tools are there, and in the 10th round or so, if you can get a guy who can go 20-20-ish and stuff like that, that's how you're going to win some leagues. That's what I'm looking for in that range. Again, it'll stay on my tombstone. He drafted Byron Buxton every year. Hopefully I can say it worked out one of those. But the last couple haven't been bad for me, and I'm going to keep doing it.
I'll just point out that Byron Buxton had a .513 slugging percentage last year, something that Starling Marte has never done in a season in his career.
There you go,
yeah,
Bill.
513. That was really nice for Buxton. One thing I do like about Mercado, though, is
for the old heads out there, I feel like the people who are still going in on Buxton are the same ones who used to love Nolasco every year. They'd be like, "Yeah,
oh
Ricky
my God,
Nolasco, man,
Ricky Nolasco." I remember him because
great. Look at me, I'm drafting him every year. Okay, good luck.
That was when strikeout to walk ratio was really having its moment as kind of the stat du jour. And his was so good that everyone's like, well, he has to be good. If you have a good strikeout to walk, you can't be bad. And I count myself among those clowns who was drafting Nolasco 2-3 years beyond his usefulness. All right, last one here. We've got Gavin Lux of back to the Dodgers, back out west here. Gavin Lux at 177 against Ryan Mcmahon at 179. Now, things were fluctuating with Colorado guys when we thought maybe we would do pods or all Arizona or pods in Arizona, Texas, and Florida. Now, most of the plans that come out have teams back in their home stadiums. So Colorado guys, you can breathe easy if you drafted 6 Rockies as your main strategy. Matt, we'll start with you on this one. Between Lux and McMahon, where are you going? Because I think this is a tough one for me. So I'm really eager to hear all three of y'all's thoughts.
Well, McMahon's one of my most owned players. He has second base, third base eligibility. He does have the home road splits, but I think he's clearly a superior player to Garrett Hampson. Now, in fantasy, Hampson has the speed factor, so that does change things. But I think Colorado has made the commitment, at least from what I've been listening to, that he's going to get the at-bats this year. He hit 25 homers last year. I think he's a really talented player that gives you that dual eligibility. And the fact that there is no Arizona-Florida thing, I'm very happy about that. One thing that really it pains me in this is I really like Gavin Lux. The thing that dings him is he going to bat 8th? Previously, they were saying they maybe didn't need to start the season with him on the roster. I think he's going to start the season on the roster, especially the shortened one. So it's very tough, but I really love McMahon, and that dual eligibility will do it for me.
Yeah, I like that dual eligibility too. Rob, let's kick it over to you here. Lux versus McMahon. They're like 2 picks apart, so it's really same kind of deal. I could actually see both going up when drafts kick back off, with Colorado set in Colorado and Lux's outlook a little bit clearer that he's going to be on the ball club. So where do you go between these 2 middle infielders?
So let's break it down. Gavin Lux has more speed than Ryan McMahon, so that's a pretty easy one. Gavin Lux has more power than Ryan McMahon, despite McMahon's home run number, so I think that's a pretty easy one. Batting average, I mean, anybody who plays in Colorado could have a batting average, but I feel pretty good about Gavin Lux's batting average. So the biggest argument against Gavin Lux, which Matt mentioned, was batting 8th, which in the National League is death. You don't want the 8th place hitter, except it doesn't matter anymore in the same way. You'd obviously rather a guy who's batting 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and
sure.
Ryan McMahon did last year. He will get more plate appearances than Gavin Lux, part because of the Dodgers' depth, part because he will hit higher in the lineup. But James Anderson, the great prospect writer over at, we're allowed to say other websites, aren't we, on this fundraiser, over at RotoWire, who I think, there's so many good prospect guys and women in the industry right now, but I trust James a lot. He says for redraft leagues this year, he would be his first rookie taken over Luis Robert. I'm curious to hear how Grace says Luis Robert, because it's not Robert or Robert, is my guess. He would take he would take Gavin Lux first amongst all rookies, and that's enough for me. So I love Gavin Lux at the price he's going on. He doesn't have the rookie helium that most rookies of his pedigree at this point have, because he wasn't that good when he got his cup of coffee. If he had never played in the majors last year, he'd be going 4 or 5 rounds earlier than he is right now because of his struggles in the majors, which is just noise to me.
I agree on that being noise, and the chatter of maybe not even starting with the club, like all that sort of stuff. That made me, but I was buying Lux left and right. Frankly, I was buying both. I got both these guys on multiple teams. That's why I kind of put them as a pair there, because I wasn't making the choice. I was just saying, give me both. Gray, finish this up here on our main ones. We might have some time for a few rapid fires, but Gavin Lux, Ryan McMahon, everyone's just eager to hear you say Gavin Lux's name.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, first of all, Ryan McMahon, I think has cores, but he has so many ground balls. His batted ball profile is a bit ugly. So just to say, cores is going to give him power, he has never shown that. And he's played there. I mean, last year he played there 140 games. He only had 24 homers. He should be getting, he's not a weak guy. He should be getting 30 homers, but he's just not a guy that hits the ball in the air enough. Gavin Lux, I don't really like either, to be totally honest. I think he's fine if he is if he's going for his price and Ryan McMahon's going for his price, I'm probably going Ryan McMahon just because I feel like his place in the lineup is a little bit safer. I don't necessarily like looking at lineups this, before the season and locking them in as if they're going to never change, because Justin Turner goes down in a week 2, Lux starts batting 3rd, and that never stopped. Just because Gavin Lux is batting 8th right now doesn't really mean anything. But Ryan McMahon just doesn't really excite me either. So neither of these guys truly excite me, but Gavin Lux, I would say, has the lineup issue. He's got one of those profiles that's maybe 15 to 20 homers over a full season, that is. And, maybe 7 to 10 steals, decent enough average. It's okay. It's not bad. It doesn't really I don't see the huge upside for Gavin Lux at all, like a Louis Robert. I think it has I think there's there's a case to be made. Some rookies have way more upside than Lux. Lux is he's fine. He's got one of those profiles that is not going to really excite anyone when they're owning them.
There aren't a lot of minor league players who walk almost as much as they strike out. That is a incredibly rare profile. And when you combine it with a bat that every scout who's looking at him, who's ranking him as a top 5, top 7 prospect in baseball, says he's going to play with plus power, and he has the speed to steal 10 to 12 to 15 plus bases. You put all those things together. I don't know what it takes to get you excited, Gray, though I can make a few guesses at this point.
If you like walks as much as if you like walk rates, you look at Nick Madrigal, he's going to have as good average, if not better than Lux. He's going to hit probably at least leadoff, if not second. And he
could hit 3 homers too. All 3 homers.
And he's going to steal 20 plus bases. He won't have any power, but he'll have as much power as Lux has steals.
I don't know if I agree with that. But one thing about Lux,
Madrigal's going like 200 picks later. I mean, it's not even a question that like Lux being the best rookie is like so debatable. It's not really like, I don't think that should be something that said
best rookie versus best fantasy rookie.
I didn't say it as a statement. I said James Anderson, a prospect writer who I respect, made it as a statement. I think I made a case for him. I'm not claiming he's going to be the best hitter in baseball this year.
I do like Lux. And as Gray said, as Gray pointed out.
In a rookie redraft, said that he could be the best rookie redraft, which is fair. I mean, that could totally be the case. But
as you said, if Justin Turner goes down, he can. If I knew he was going to be locked in the number 2 hole, then I'm really going to be loving Lux here. I'm kind of
Muncy could go down like that. There is movability there.
For sure. Yeah, no, I think it's in flux. If there's an injury, all bets are off, and Lux can move up the lineup.
I would take the hitting profile of a Lux over Robert. I know it's Robert, but I just want to say Robert.
No, I think one of the things about Lux and that maybe Gray is suffering from that others might, he doesn't have that one exquisite fantasy tools in particular, because if it is, it's probably batting average, which we know can be volatile. I mean, he came up and hit 240 last year, and it's like, 240, 82 plate appearances. It means nothing to me. But this is a guy who should regularly hit. I mean, I think he's a more powerful Corey Seager. And Corey Seager's dealt with the injuries to get right. That might seem like a negative to some. To me, that's a positive.
Exactly.
With plus speed, Corey Seager was never going to steal more than 3 to 5 bases. So it's plus speed.
Corey Seager's the problem. That's what happens. Corey Seager.
What's the problem?
When you don't have a huge stat, a huge category for like at least one that you can rely on, you get into a situation where it's Corey Seager and you get 17 homers, 4 steals, 275 average, and you're like, this is boring.
That's a downside. Like that's his downside, though. I mean, it's boring, but boring wins. Boring's how you win. I mean, not everyone can be a flashy upside pick, but we can get much deeper on that. We actually do have a hard out here coming. I want to thank all 3 of you guys for being on. I want to thank Nick and the Pitcher List crew for putting this together. This has been a blast. I had a really great time. I knew this panel would be a lot of fun. We didn't just have a bunch of back patting and agreement. So appreciate you guys doing this. The name pronunciations from Gray was the best part.
Awesome job by you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
You guys were amazing. That was exactly what I was hoping for. That was incredible. Really, thank you all so much for joining us for PitchCon. I couldn't have gotten any better. My God, that was incredible. It's Gallon, Gray. Like, how are you gonna do that to my guy?
Galen.
I don't know. I'm done. I'm not.
I think the pronunciations with the laugh added at the end.
I want to know how many L's would have to be in his name before you decide, it's obviously Gallon. Like, is it a quadruple? Gallen? Like, then, it's Gallon.
Then to be wife make him get a gallon of milk? Gallon, yeah.
Person. Why are you guys picking on me?
Love it. I love it.
I actually have to go be on TV with Craig Mitch right now. So I gotta go.
How'd your connection get better now that we're done? How come I can see you now? We're done.
Yeah, you're done. Get out of here.
Thanks, guys.
We got to move on here.
My hair
All right. That was amazing. And anyway, thank you guys